Good evening, everybody. So my name's Margie, and tonight we'll do some meditations together. So basically tonight we're going to do some meditations on equanimity and and love and compassion. So equanimity is the foundation for then developing the mind of love and compassion. So and that's why we do spiritual practice, really, is to develop our mind, our mental states. And through meditation we can increase our awareness of what's happening in our mind, and then also learn to cultivate mental states, positive ones, and also learn to reduce our negative mental states. So really that's what meditation's doing. Because if our mind's left unchecked, generally it tends to be on the negative side, or it tends to create a lot of problems for ourselves. So we tend to increase our attachments, or we increase our anger, jealousies, our pride, our dissatisfaction in life. So that's meditation. The idea of meditation is to overcome these mental states. And so as we become more and more aware of them, we can then apply the antidotes in our time, in our meditation. So, and often we think that the causes of all of our unhappiness and distress is from the external. And it can take some time to really understand that we are a lot of the creator of our own experiences in our own life. And sometimes that's really difficult to come to terms with and to really accept and understand. And again, through meditation and through greater awareness of one's own mind, you can begin to see that for yourselves. So when our mind is out of control, we do create a lot of the drama in our lives. And often I know that people say, but people, hurt us or harm us, that there's people external to us who cause us a lot of harm and hurt. And that's certainly true. People in our lives do cause us problems and pain and target us, and all sorts of abuse, from quite mild until quite serious forms of abuse. So with meditation, in a way, that's what we can do. We can't control the other person's mind. We can't stop them from being an abuser. We can't stop the harm that they're doing. But we can stop the harm that they can do to us. And we can we can stop the harm that they're doing to us directly, and we can stop the harm that they're doing to us by us obsessing and causing more negative, fixating and causing more negative states within our mind, and not being able to move past that harm. So that again, through meditation we have to learn to understand how these processes play out. So in no way am I diminishing or saying that people don't harm us. People do. But it's just trying to understand at a deeper level, what can I do about that? How can I take control of that? How can I start to move through that? And how can I stop retaliating? How can I stop being a victim? How can I stop using that as an excuse? Because people will harm. Again, we cannot control everybody. There's a great saying of Shanti Deva's, and it's basically in relation to anger, but we can't put leather across every surface of the earth, but we can put leather on the soles of our feet, So it has the same effect, but one's a lot easier and practical than the other. So we can't control others, but we have the only empowered thing to do in life is to control our own mind. And some of these meditation practices are really profound in that they really ask us to look at things in an opposite way than we would normally think is is a normal way to look at things. And then people can say, oh, but what if? But sometimes you have to step back and trust the process and try and do flip your mind to this thinking and see what happens. Because it is counterintuitive to how we might normally respond or normally think. And in that's why they're often called an antidote. So you might have a mind state, a non-virtuous mind state, and if you apply another mental mind state, you can't have two mind states happening at the same time. So that's the idea of it. They're meant to impact how we think, how we emote. So they can seem really strange and really weird, but that is the idea. It's a very logical process of working with our mind. And again, can be very different to how we might normally think, and I'll explain more as we go. But just try and, have an open mind in a way and go with some of the meditations rather than saying, yeah, but that person hurt me, I can't develop love for that person. That's sometimes... It is possible to develop love for somebody who has hurt us, and that's what we have to see if that's possible for us. And what is the benefit for us? Again, that's the real question. What is the benefit for us? Because, again, that person may be hateful, harmful, psychopathic person, abuser, and again, we can't impact that person's state of mind. We cannot. We can only deal with our own state of mind. And even with trauma and things like that, often if there's trauma involved, then there's we are stuck in a pattern of being traumatised by a past trauma. And again, that's because the mind has become very fixated, for good reason. I'm, again, not minimising, but again, that is the mind holding on to a very negative act. And so very hard to get past the trauma if you're unwilling, if you can't let go of it. And that's why often, people need a lot of support and help to move past it, because the mind can and will hold on to what it's most habituated to thinking about. So again, this is quite a different way of looking at the mind. And really the mind is a very simple thing in that it will just go to what it's most habituated to. And again, good reason to develop love and compassion is because the mind will it will just do what it's habituated to do. So if it's used to having a certain mental go-to, if that's victim, if that's, whinger or whatever that is, whatever our go-to position is, it's to be happy or to be depressed or to be have feelings of loneliness. Often a lot of that is just part of the habituation of the mind. It is habituated into that. So like neuroscience says, that's a groove. They're mental pathways in your mind. To shift them takes time and effort, And again, that's what meditation's doing. It's trying to lay down new ways of thinking, new ways of responding, and giving tools to do that. So, and from a Buddhist point of view, regardless of all, it does come down to how we do hold our ego, self-cherishing mind. So, part of that is trying to relinquish some of that strong mind of always wanting to be happy, always judging one's happiness and dissatisfaction really strongly. So it's really challenging us to let go of some of those convictions, like, dislike, good, bad. Because again, if we become fixated always in that mindset, it's very dualistic. There's always, if there's good, there's always going to be bad. You're stuck there. If you like something, sure thing, there's going to be something you equally dislike. So it's so the stronger you have some of these emotions and react to them, your world is always going to be ruled by these kind of reactions and responses. So this is why these ideas of meditation, this idea of equanimity, So again, it's trying to overcome that mind of strong dualistic mind, that everything is one way and another, you know. So it's good and it's bad. It's black and it's white. It's definitely this and it's definitely that. I definitely like that and I definitely don't like that. You know, because in a way that's how we kind of live our lives. And so it's challenging those kind of assumptions we make and live our lives by. So the idea of equanimity is trying to get one's mind more equal. So not looking at someone, something, an object, an experience, and having such a strong like, dislike, or indifference, because that's the third thing we can feel. We can feel strong like, strong dislike, and indifference. And so it's actually a mind that sort of is just equal. It's not liking, it's not disliking, it's not indifferent. It's just taking things in and not having such a strong judgment. Because again, that judgment comes from that egocentric point of view. It's I like, I don't like, you know, because again, it's examining that. Nothing is what I might like is definitely not what other people here would like, you know. So there is no definite like and dislike, you know. What I might think is a very pleasant way to spend a day, somebody think that's the most horrid way, I'll do this. So again, it's again, what is the reality? There is no like and dislike. It's totally dependent on my projection onto that thing and generally onto how that thing is going to please me or not please me. So again, it's trying to get our minds into a different state. And a Buddhist view would say a state more in tune with reality. Because like, dislike is my reality. All things being more equal, all things being, is a much more universal reality. So, so that's what the mind of equanimity is. So we try and base this on people, not on cars or shoes or things like that. So people, so we kind of, and the logic goes, so these are meditations that are based on a set of logic. And again, separated from how we normally would experience the world. So it's sort of a wider view. It's taking us out of our ego a little bit and looking a bit wider. And so again, it's with this logic, it's maybe not a good idea to apply this logic to how you might feel about so-and-so who treated you badly. Because again, we're trying to suspend some of those interactions we have and take a bit of a wider view. So to broaden our mind and not get it caught into that personal. And then we can use, once we have widened our view, widened our capacity, we can then use that wisdom to deal with the tricky situations in life. And when we do come across somebody who's trying to harm us, we have some wisdom then to use that in that situation. So the idea of the logic goes that all beings are equal in that everybody has a life that is precious to them. So whether you like them or not like them, whether they're from this country or that country, this political view, that political view, this colour skin, that colour skin, this gender, that gender, wealthy, not wealthy, what religion, this religion, whatever, all those personal biases aside, every being, and this is not just people, but every insect, fish, anything, every being, animal, mammal, all are equal in that life, their life is the most precious thing to them. So again, that's a reality. It's a universal reality. So we're suspending ourselves from in meditation from thinking about my own particular biases. And we're stepping back into be a much more universal, spiritual idea of of what is happening in the world, what's a reality. And all of those beings on this planet, whatever, in the universe, whatever your particular belief is, have a mind and a body and a self, an I, some level of conscious I. So again, everybody is equal in that. And because of that, body, mind and I, self, that self is really always motivated for happiness, personal happiness. You know, and for a mammal that might just be foraging for enough food and finding a nice mate. And for us it means a whole lot of different things. But it's still the same. Everybody is equal in wanting happiness, whatever that means to that person. And not wanting to suffer. So again, this is the idea, this is the logic of the meditation. And this is the logic we apply. If you agree, if you find there's logic in this, this is the basis of that meditation. And also saying that we are all equal in that we are often confused about what brings us happiness and how do we eliminate our suffering. And again, that logic's quite easy to follow through because none of us want suffering. We always are suffering. The world is going to hell in a handbasket, it seems sometimes. Why is that? You know, why do we have all these problems? If none of us want them, and we only want to be happy, why is there so much suffering? You know, and there's various degrees of suffering in the world as well. And why is that? And that's because we're all confused about what is happiness and what is suffering, and how to increase one and decrease the other. And the next logical step of this meditation is that we all deserve happiness. You know, there's not one being that could say doesn't deserve happiness. Looking big picture, not in the judgmental, but they did that, they murdered or whatever that, but in the big picture of having body, mind, self, wanting happiness, not wanting to suffer. And people who murder are generally misguided about what is happiness and suffering. Often they're going after their own happiness. Their warped logic is, if I murder this person, I'll be happy. But that is a reality. You know, people find themselves in a lot of trouble and a lot of suffering, not because they set out to get suffering. They may have found themselves in suffering and they were trying to get out of suffering, didn't know how to do that, maybe looked at the examples around them or what society had to offer them and ended up creating more suffering, but their intention was not to create more suffering. It was in their mind, they were trying to somehow fix things or get some level of, or eliminate their suffering at least, or get some level of happiness. And then we were all equal in having a potential because we have mind. Because we have a mind, we are all equal in having a potential to get some level of happiness, and especially humans, more difficult. But for animals, but in Buddhist terms, that would say rebirth, so that you've got your opportunity. But yes, we all have the potential to find it because we have a mind, and our mind isn't fixed and permanent. It's not fixed. It is possible that we can create happiness in our mind. So and so that's the logic of based on equanimity. So based on those sequences of facts, we can say, okay, yes, I agree with that. All beings are equal, So we're taking it away from that, the judgment and the nitty-gritty, and looking at that big picture. So, and the benefit of this, again, if we do these meditations, who benefits? If we develop love and compassion in our mind, who benefits? Most directly, we are the ones who benefit. And then how we then act and present in the world, we can benefit others. Because our mind, every action has come from a thought, has come from an intention in our mind, then we act. We don't act and then think about it. It may seem like we do sometimes, but there is an intention in our mind that propels an action. So again, something to think about. So whatever your mind is most habituated to, if somebody cuts you off in traffic and the first thing you do is swear or scream or get really annoyed, that's your habituated mind showing you. That's showing you what your mind is, what it's habituated to doing. How often you get annoyed or frustrated. That's just showing you what's happening in your mind, how habituated your mind is to a certain thought, how obsessed it is to a certain idea of depriving yourself of food, or obsessing about weight, or whatever it is, or obsessing about food, or whatever it is. You can see what your mind is doing, and you can see that through meditation. So this is why these sorts of meditations train our mind. They train our mind to change the mind state, to broaden the mind state, to open it up, and make it a much more, for that time and the impact it has afterwards, to soften our view, to open our mind up to the possibility of having compassion and love for people. So the meditation we're going to do today, this Buddhist one that develops equanimity, is called Friend, Enemy and Stranger. So, and again, so I'll guide us through this meditation, but I'll just explain a little bit how it goes. So we talk about friends, and we know that our friends, we know their friends are real. Again, not denying friends. When we go back to how we operate in the real world, we all benefit from having friends. And we all get a lot of love and comfort and feel connected to each other and to the world through our friends, be that family, relations, colleagues, but people who we were friendly with. So we would describe friends is somebody who benefits us, and we benefit them back, but there's someone we're familiar with and that we have a connection with. Again, enemies, most of us have people in our lives, like I said, at some low level or high level who target us or who harm us, and we end up calling enemy. So in some way they've harmed us, and we label them enemy. And then there's the 5.5 billion people on the planet that are strangers, really. Like most people on the planet, and think of all the other beings, are actually strangers to us, and often we are quite indifferent to strangers. So these are the categories of people that we have in our lives. So we in this meditation, we're examining those categories and how we hold them, and then again just trying to loosen that kind of view of them. So how we do that is that we look at our friend, and when we think of our friends, we kind of think often, and we don't even think about it, we just know that that person is our friend and that they'll always be our friends, and that's what they are. We label friend, and we have certain feelings, very strong feelings and connection to that person. But when we examine that idea of friend, what does that mean? Is that person a permanent friend? Was that person always a friend? Will that person be a friend in the future? And if we look at that, we know that the people who are our friends now, a year ago, 6 months ago, may have been a complete stranger to us. They may be a complete stranger to us in 10 years' time. Or they may be our enemy within 6 months, a year. So this is this idea of friend. Nobody. These are just labels. Again, labeling friend is on someone who benefits me. When that changes, the label changes. So it's understanding then who is friend, who is enemy, and who is stranger. You know? So and that's the idea of this meditation. Nobody really is friend, enemy, or stranger, only in relation to at that point of time. So then we can reflect on this, and we can then develop this idea from that of then that they are equal in that they are just people who have that relationship with me, but they are also just in their own right, just people like me. They have friends, they have strangers, they're enemies. That it's the same. So there's no different. There's no difference between themselves and myself. You know, and so this is the way we, you know, and it seems really obvious, but when we really think about that, you know, sometimes that can shift something in us, shift something about how we view people and how the strong labels we put on it. And then from that we can just, from where we can then, when we have an equal view of people and we go back to our logic, that they like us, they are equal in wanting happiness, that's all they want. So their friends, enemy and strangers are based again from their personal point of view, each person, and how that person will benefit them from their perceived state of mind, what they're perceiving. You know, they're like us but they just want happiness. They're like us, they feel loneliness, they feel jealousy, they feel pride, they feel anger. You know. So this is this idea of trying to get this mind of equanimity. It's trying to, at least for the meditation, to feel, you know, that those three categories don't exist. Don't exist for you at that point. So you've equalised people out. That they are just like you in that they're a being with a mind, a body, and a self. So for that point in time, your most loved ones are as equal as your enemy or a stranger. You know, they're equal in that way. So again, very different to how we would normally respond to people. And this is why these meditations are labelled as mind training. So they're really, you know, working with your mind to really just change your perception, to change your thinking for that time. And I mean, it's really interesting with enemies as well. And I mean, again, not to minimise, I know when, you know, you have problems with people, it's easy to, you know, feel that they hurt you and you feel great animosity towards that person. And again, not minimising that that's what happens in life. I guess the question is, and it does happen, and people can be hurtful and harmful, and we have to protect ourselves. But it's about then, if you have done this meditation, and I mean, that person may have been a friend who is now your enemy for a start. It's because often it is your friends who become your enemies, generally. Also, the more you think and think and think and think and think about how terrible and how wrong they've wronged you, again, you're habituating your mind. So it can be really hard to seem to do this meditation for an enemy, but at the same time, if we continue to become fixated on our enemy, again, who is that harming? It's not really harming them because you're fixating on them, thinking about them. It's actually harming you more because you're habituating your mind to enemy, to that person, and then that's just getting you angry and worked up and feeling a victim, and then you act out anger, worked up, feeling victim, and you're stuck. There's no joy at that point in your mind. So again, not minimising the harm that they're doing to you, but then you've got choices about how you respond. There's always, you can cut them out of your life. You can tell them very politely, yep, that's fine, whatever. But again, the more we fixate about it and can't move, we are holding on to a certain mindset. And again, not minimising trauma or anything, but with our everyday sorts of enemy types, we have to be really careful how we engage. And I guess this is where we can feel these meditations can be really hard, because we might not want to do that to an enemy. We might want to keep somebody as our enemy. And that's something we have to examine. Is that beneficial for me? Or am I better just to try and process as much as I can what's happened, learn from it, and then try and move past that mind? And then this is the way we can get some wisdom to be able to then have to work with that person or make choices in our lives that are going to be happy for us. And because when we have friend, enemy and stranger all of the time, because basically what it does do is that we often get jealous of our friends, and we get competitive with the people we then find are equal to us, and they can be our friends, and we feel superior to people we might look down on. So it's these strong categories, always having these strong fixed ideas of who people are, that often causes us to create a lot of our own unhappiness. So it's again taking a little bit of control of that and working with some of those mind states within oneself. So we'll do this meditation. I'll guide it through, and then we'll see how we go. So get yourself in a comfortable position, sitting or on the floor or on the chair, doesn't matter, but back straight, shoulders down. Try and physically release your muscles. Some deep breaths to physically relax. Can't mentally relax. Physically relax first and then mentally relax. So we'll start by bringing your attention internally. Forget about the day's worries and concerns. And just put your mind onto your breath. So we'll do the friend, enemy, stranger analytical meditation. So imagine yourself seated, and in front of you and facing you is your mother on your left and your father on your right. All of the women who you would label friend are seated around your mother. And all of the males you label friend are seated around your father. Now surrounding these are the people you would label enemy, or people you don't like. And surrounding them, stretching out for miles and miles and miles, are all other beings, strangers. Now choose a friend in your mind. And think, they are my friend. They are close to me. They care about me. And they have done many kind things for me. And because of this, I consider them dear to me. Now focus on someone in the crowd that you classify as your enemy. And think, this person is not close to me. Because I don't like them, because they have harmed me in some way. Because of this harm, I don't hold them close and I don't consider them dear. Now focus on a stranger. Think, that person I don't consider close to me or distant from me, because they have neither benefited me or harmed me. Therefore, I am indifferent to this person. So now consider this concept of friend, enemy, and stranger you have identified. Is this a permanent state? Is it a definite state? Or is it one that is completely reliant on my ego-grasping concepts of what benefits me, harms me, or is indifferent to me? Logically, it can't be a permanent state, because a friend can quickly become an enemy a stranger, and a stranger one most dear. Therefore, there is no inherently existing friend, enemy, or stranger. So now go back to looking at all the sentient beings in front of you, spreading out in all directions, surrounding you for miles and miles. And think, just like me, they possess a mind, a body, and a self. Just like me, they are all wanting to have happiness and are not wanting to suffer. In this way, there is no difference between sentient beings at all, regardless of how they have treated me. We are all equal. And we are all equal in deserving happiness. So we'll end the meditation there. So the follow-up meditation to this meditation is going to be one with still holding all those beings there and our mind of equanimity that we hopefully a little bit created in our mind. And then we'll give out love and compassion. We'll do the giving and taking meditation on love and compassion. So again, this is... So equanimity is the foundation, and then from this idea of all equal, everyone deserving happiness, that is love, wanting to give all beings that happiness is actually what love is. As you probably might have felt when you identified friend, that was somebody you felt great affection towards because how they benefited you. So, and that's love. That is the feeling of love. And the feeling of the idea of compassion is wanting to take suffering away. So again, we normally want to do that for our loved ones, and we don't want to do that for our enemies. We want to do the opposite, and we don't care about everybody else. So from this meditation, when we've got all those beings around us within our mind's now very expanded in its idea of who it can give love to and who it can and generate compassion for. Because our normal egocentric view of who deserves it and who doesn't has now been, for a little bit anyway, neutralised. So this Tonglen meditation, which we'll do now, is giving and taking love on all those beings. Taking suffering and giving love. And again, this meditation, people feel, I think, threatened a little bit by this meditation of this idea that we take suffering from all beings, and we what we do is we breathe it in, and then that suffering hits the own suffering in our own heart, around our heart area, and it dissipates it all. So our own suffering is this is the imagining. This is what we're imagining in this meditation. And people feel, oh, I can't take on other people's suffering. In reality, we're not. We're shifting our conceptual mind to thinking, to wanting to do that, but we're not actually doing it. And then we're creating a conceptual mind of love, and then we're giving that love. Again, not based on normal categories of a transaction, but on love based on this idea of everyone deserving love. So again, these are mind training for our minds. We're the one benefiting, and we're the ones broadening our scope of ability to feel love and compassion for all beings. And that's creating positive mind states. And if you have a positive mind state like love, at the same time you can't have that thought and hatred for enemy. So it totally will neutralise any negative mind states in your mind. And that's the benefit to you. And then when we go out in the world, our views are a lot more softer. We're kinder naturally. So we don't have to think about that then. We've already generated those mind states, and so our interactions will naturally be more, slowly, will naturally be more just caring or less threatening, more connection. So again, and when this idea of taking on the suffering, again, you can examine that. If people find that really challenging, look for the suffering that you've taken on. You can't find it. That if you look for it, it will disappear. So we imagine it as black smoke, and we imagine it all our own suffering mind. We imagine it crushing and turning it into smoke, and our own suffering is destroyed. So again, very powerful meditation to do if we are feeling depressed or sad, is to take on other people's suffering and make it destroy your own depressed or anxious or angry state of mind. And then generate love for oneself and then give that to others. And the more expansive others, it could be just one person, it could be like we did in that meditation. So again, we're working with our own conceptual mind states to create positive mind states that are based more on a more universal reality rather than our own ego-centered transactional reality. Okay, so we'll do this meditation. Again, so I'll guide the meditation. And yeah, so the idea of love is to benefit, and the idea of compassion is to eliminate suffering of others. So we'll try the meditation, and then if anybody has questions or concerns, we'll have a few minutes for them. Okay, so resume your meditation posture. And again, resume your visualization of seated in front of you is your mother on the left and your father on the right, in front, facing you. And surrounding your father, surrounding your mother is all of your loved ones, female loved ones. And surrounding your father is all your male loved ones. And surrounding them are people you consider enemy. And surrounding them for miles and miles and miles, stretched out are all the people we consider strangers. And so when you look out at them, you think, all sentient beings in front of me, they are just like me and all want happiness, and none of them want to suffer. In this way, there is no difference between us, regardless of how they treat me. We are all equal. So now from your heart, a ray of white light travels up and out through your right nostril. And this light ray goes out in all directions and enters into the left nostril of all beings. And this beam of light fills all their bodies with light. And as it fills their bodies, they feel great happiness. Now all of their pain and suffering and all of the delusions that cause suffering leaves from their right nostril in the form of black smoke. This black smoke comes to you and enters your left nostril. And as it goes down towards your heart, all of your own pain and suffering, which is also in the form of black smoke, when they hit together, it completely disappears like a water cannon hitting a pile of dust. So continue with this meditation, white light coming out of your right nostril, entering their left nostril, filling all beings up with happiness. Black smoke coming out of their left nostril, their right nostril, entering your left nostril. And as it comes down and hits your own pain and suffering, that just dissipates instantly. And your body is left full of white light. Now feel, as all sentient beings' bodies are filled with light, that all their suffering has gone. All of the causes of their suffering has gone. And all of your own suffering has gone. And the causes of your own suffering has gone. And that there is no more black smoke left in any sentient being or in you. And one last time, feel the light leaving your right nostril, entering into the bodies of sentient beings, filling them with happiness. And feel that they feel extremely happy. And try and feel this happiness within you. As your own body fills with light and sentient beings' bodies fill with light, it is completely radiant and beautiful, completely contented and happy. And you feel happy about this. Now all of the light dissolves back into you, back into your heart. And all of the beings around you dissolve into light. And just sit in the spaciousness and the peaceful mind. Okay, we can end the meditation there. And did anyone have any problems with the meditation or concerns? Yeah, it is a bit. Oh, that's okay. Oh, okay, sorry. Yeah, sometimes we're a bit tired when we do that. That's fine. Yeah. Yeah, it can be challenging, like that idea of taking on the suffering, but as long as you just don't hold on to the suffering, so you don't hold it on, you use it as an instrument for ridding yourself in your mind of your own suffering. And when you do that, so if you hold on to it, you can cause yourself some little mental, that could mentally disturb you. And so that's why the meditation is, it's kind of an advanced one in a way, because, the idea is really to use those visualization. Sometimes they have one of scorpions leaving all your bottom orifices, and there's lots of all slimy black slime. But as long as this idea of the suffering, you're not holding it on. You're recognizing its transience, its impermanence, its conditions. You're recognizing that it's nothing inherent, it's nothing real, nothing to be afraid of. But yeah. Any other questions? Yeah.
I was interested in the mother and father, and the male friend, female friend, and the segregation.
Yeah, that's a good question. I've never asked that question. I don't. Yeah, there must be a reason, and to be honest, often, I don't know if it's connected, but there is this idea of left and right being female, male. I think it's more in that. If it's anything, it's not a gender thing. It's more of a bit like the yin yang, the male-female divide. More that energy. There's a certain male energy, certain female energy. I think it would be more to do with that. Because in some of the visualization meditations there is that idea of, a bit like French language, aspects being male and aspects being female. Yeah. But technically I'm not sure. But yeah, good question. Mm-hmm. Any other questions? Okay, so we can just do a quick minute dedication. So we've done some wonderful meditations and created some lovely energy. So all of that energy, of that love energy that we've created here tonight, feel that from the Buddhas or holy beings or God or whatever beings or universal goodness. Feel that same love and compassion from all those beings comes down into your crown and again fills your whole body. All of your troubles and worries, concerns, fears, suffering, sicknesses, all leave, all disappear. And rejoice for engaging the meditation. And just feel some peace. And send that benefit and love to all those beings we just meditated for. Okay, thank you. Tea and cake in the dining room if you'd like to stay. Otherwise, Alan Malloy will be teaching next Monday.